What's up, everybody? It's Chad. We're back again, and Gino, for another episode of Ask Chad Grassy Logic. We don't have a guest this week. It's just going to be me and Gino giving you guys, some updates, some stuff that's going on. This stuff is kind of actually important too, so it's great that we have a opportunity to kind of just talk about just it. So, what's up, Gino? How you been?
I've been good.
Yeah.
Just hanging out. Took my hat off so people know that I'm not going bald.
And I said that when I walked in. I was like, I'm not used to you wearing a hat. I figured you were going bald.
Actually, I will show you something that's real quick because, everybody loves their friends.
Yeah.
But sometimes your friends are just jerks.
Does someone make a meme?
Yeah, sometimes your friends do things and they say things that are just like, man, well, just to set it up, I had to go to Albuquerque for a funeral.
Mm-hmm.
My college roommate, his mom passed away. We all went up there.
Oh, sorry.
So it's like all the college roommates, there's 4 of us together. We're talking, we're going through that. We take some pictures together. Very nice.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, show my brother these pictures, and he goes, "Oh my God, you look like Colonel Sanders." I tell my friends that, and next thing you know, my friends are sending me stuff like this.
Oh, that's good. Oh, wow, that's hilarious. The same dip and everything right there.
Yeah. I'll just shut it.
Yeah, you might as well. There you go. There's Gino. Yeah, you guys get the flash of it.
So there you go. I just thought I'd do that for no reason.
I can't unsee it now.
You can't. And then I thought I forgot about it.
Yeah.
I decided to put on the white shirt today.
Oh.
I was just walking by. And I think I went to the bathroom this morning when I first got here, and I'm looking in the mirror and I'm going like,
You're just missing the little tie thing you had.
Bow tie and the mustache, and then, and obviously my hair is not that white yet.
Yeah.
But the lighting there, whatever, and so suddenly I found myself looking for Colonel Sanders costumes for Halloween.
Well, I gotta say, you're
lean
lucky
into it, man.
You're lucky to have your hair, so you should be proud of it. Show it off more.
Every once in a while. I like my hats, everyone. But what do we got going on this week?
Yeah, let's start for this week. So this week we're going to be talking about the rescheduling hearing that's happening next week. So pretty much I think next Tuesday or next Monday, one of those 2 days is when the hearing is going to happen. And so we're going to be able to hear in on that, see what that's going. Now, I will break down, what's in this, what's going to happen, but we're also going to be talking about some updates when it comes to hemp on the federal side with Congress and also with Texas. So Texas and the federal government is kind of like working hand to hand because Texas likes to pass legislation that is based on federal law, and not really veering outside of it as much as, other states do. So they're kind of dealing with waiting for the government to do something and also with the other stuff. So we'll get into that a little bit later in the episode. But first, let's get into the hearing for next week. Now, this hearing is about Schedule 3 cannabis. However, I want you guys to know something very important. This is something that I figured out while I was reading the documentation too, because it was kind of confusing me at first. And it's not until the second page do you really get an understanding of what they're doing. So they have already rescheduled FDA-approved medical marijuana or cannabis and state medical marijuana or cannabis, right? So that is already Schedule 3. So we don't have to worry about that. What this hearing is for is to see if the rest of cannabis should become Schedule 3, rescheduled, descheduled, whatever. They can make it Schedule 2 if they'd like. The DEA doesn't have to abide by the, executive order because, it's just a suggestion.
Yeah.
And so it's up to the DEA of where they want to schedule this now. So it's confusing, I know, but this hearing is just to see if your state legal cannabis or just, Schedule 1 activity cannabis should be Schedule 3, so all of cannabis. Now, I kind of feel that it's not going to, and for a few reasons. And Gino, if you think of any, reasons yourself too, and this is my personal opinion of what I think.
Reasons why they wouldn't go?
Reasons why they wouldn't make all cannabis Schedule 3. So what I'm saying is either they're going to keep Schedule 1 cannabis Schedule 1, or the adult use cannabis Schedule 1, or move it to Schedule 3 with medical cannabis and just make everything medical marijuana essentially, which sounds even more confusing. or remove it completely from scheduling altogether, which then would put it with alcohol and tobacco.
Yeah.
And then, like we talked before,
and then ATF takes over.
ATF will more than likely take over in that sense because you already have tobacco and alcohol with the firearms in there. So here's my thing. The federal government has already split the plant when it came to hemp, and they haven't put it back yet. And actually, they're expanding it further for the hemp thing. We'll get into more of that on the federal hemp side and the Texas stuff, because that goes into that conversation. They are going a little bit further on it. They are expanding it and try to whatever. But they have yet to put it back with regular cannabis, Schedule 1, or the medical cannabis. And so right now, as it stands, we essentially have 3 different cannabis industries for the same plant. And I've told you guys this is more than likely going to happen if it goes this route. So we have hemp, which is any cannabis under 0.3% THC. So
baby cannabis.
Yeah, baby cannabis. Just a little, and they base the numbers off of THC too, which is dumb to start out with. And we saw where that issue came from with the THCA, and we find different compounds in cannabis pretty essentially almost every other month, or every year is a real truth in that. We find new compounds every year, and so they have to then go in and update it to have that compound either banned, included, excluded, whatever. Which
is one of the benefits of going Schedule 3, even for medical, because you can do those research now. Can you imagine the compounds and the things you'll find once you actually get to study it more?
Yes, but the shitty part about that is after you do study it and discover it, then you have to go and legislatively change it so that way that is either included, excluded, or banned. Which makes it even more confusing in the end too, and it makes the process even more lengthy, and then you end up with these gray areas for a very long time and this and that. But when you deschedule it altogether, the whole plant, all the compounds, they become not scheduled whatsoever, and then we get to kind of figure out, okay, do we go off of numbers that are based off of a compound that today is the only compound that's in cannabis, and maybe next week we discover one that's similar to it but also does something a little different but the same? Or do we go by a whole number thing and kind of figure out, okay, we're gonna just allow you guys to create whatever, but if we start seeing issues with certain compounds, maybe we'll talk to you about it and see what's going on here. Why is this one? Because we kind of fucked up by making high THC everything. Like taking the plant from that was maybe 6 to 8% THC, bumping it up to, which I think is silly sometimes to claim 40%. I don't believe there's any 40% THC cannabis out there. Even 30% I feel is reaching. A lot of the labs have been known to lie when it comes to certain things like that. Don't get me wrong. There are variances, I think, of like 15% that's allowed. So
that much?
Yeah. It's a pretty high variance. I think we covered it here on the show before.
Yeah, if they have 15%, but then if they can vary by 15%, your 15% goes to 30, and then you're just fudging.
Exactly.
That kind of thing. Which anybody that knows anything about how compounds work and different things work together, 40% of one particular element in the compound, I think, is pretty ridiculous.
Yeah. So we're excluding many other compounds in the testing too, because our testing systems are very flawed, and that's in every state. And in New Mexico, we're actually very new. If you guys didn't know this, to testing, we haven't had testing a requirement here in New Mexico until adult use essentially happened, and that was not even until 2022 when adult sales started. So even before then, they weren't really required. And for a while, they weren't requiring anybody below the border checks to get their cannabis tested because there were no testing facilities in the area. We did have Rio Grande Analytics here for a little bit. They left to Albuquerque, and then they came back kind of recently in the past couple of years. So then there was a big gap of nowhere to test the cannabis, and so they didn't really make it a requirement. And so here in New Mexico, that's still a fairly new thing for us to be, to test and this and that. Even though it's been there the whole time, it just wasn't required. I mean, I would test my own patient grown cannabis all the time too to see what was in it, and there wasn't THCV, there wasn't CBN that was really promoted back then. This is like 2017, 2018. There's compounds we have yet to discover. The Delta 8 thing didn't start until maybe 2 years after that. And so we need to ensure that we do something that is going to allow us to be flexible whenever we discover something new, because we're going to be discovering stuff in cannabis for a very, very long time. Before, And to be honest, who knows? Certain cultivars or variants of different cultivars of cannabis, there could be a new compound that pops up that we've never seen before. So we need to be able to be fluid, and I think that descheduling gives us the most fluidity versus medical, because medical has to go through the study thing, the compound has to then be studied itself, and then it has to go through the law thing. And while it's going through that whole process, the industry's already taking off with it. Yeah. So by the time the laws catch up, they're already behind and it's already too late. And
that's generally sorry about this, a little bit of a negativity here, but that's generally how the government works.
Oh, and I agree.
They're reactive to everything. They're always late to the game on a lot of things.
100%.
So I'm not sure, even if they deschedule, how that is necessarily going to stop that. But I understand what you're saying. Descheduling would just solve so many potential issues that are going to come along with that,
And we're already finding, issues already with the Schedule 3 stuff with the, with the state medical and the FDA approved, the people that are, that I've talked to that have been applying for the federal stuff, for the Schedule 3 stuff, they're running into a lot of issues, and I warned people about this. I said, you're not going to be able to just walk into it as easy as you guys think it's going to be. You're going to have a lot of requirements. You're going to have to do a lot of upgrades to your facilities. The product stuff. There's going to be a lot of changes that you're going to have to do to your business in order to come up or to become qualified through the federal government, to have the Schedule 3 stuff.
Just tell everybody that has gone through the process of trying to get their business, you're in the middle of it right now, trying to get your stuff done just through the city, the county, trying to get all of those stuff and the rules that they have, take the federal government, and particularly with the government, and multiply that by 10.
Oh, I agree.
It's going to be 10, if not 20 times worse with everything that they're going to be have you required to get done.
Yeah. And I'm not shocked by any of this at all. When people tell me, I'm like, oh, no way, that sucks. And I was even told that, the regional DEA offices were the ones that were going to be handling your paperwork, not a national agent or a group of people that are processing these paperwork. So it's going to be up to your regional office and what they think that says and stuff like this. So it may even vary between state to state.
I was going to say, of course not. Nobody would have the same rules and the ideas for,
across the board. Yeah.
No, it's going to be in different areas. It'll be a little bit different.
Yeah. And already we're running into issues with people trying to become compliant with this, current state legal medical Schedule 3 thing. So, don't think that this is going to save you guys. Like, 280E being gone sounds great, but to get there is going to be very expensive, take a long time. It's going to test your freaking patience, and you're going to, and at the end of the day, it's not even guaranteed that you're going to get it.
I would say this, just ask any local pharmacy what they have to go through to get approved and everything to handle the medications that they do. And it's almost pretty much the same thing. Yeah. It's exactly the same thing, I imagine. Yeah.
Yeah. And who knows, they could make it to where, the cannabis that you do get, state legal or not, has to come from a legit pharmacy, because there are local pharmacies. We have, some here in Las Cruces. I think Mesilla Valley Pharmacy is a local pharmacy. Yeah. Locally owned, operated.
Actually, I think there's one around the corner here, just down the road. Yeah. So there's a couple of local ones, but
And I found out actually those pharmacies, I think we found out, if you go to like Walgreens, they don't allow their pharmacists to use their full license. For pharmacists, they kind of cap them at the knees at certain places. But these local ones, they allow the pharmacists to use their full license. So sometimes they're a little more thorough versus the ones at like, CVS or Walgreens, even though it's a little more convenient, because I know the hours for the local ones can vary and be a little annoying,
Yeah. Business. Hey, people got to go home and go to sleep.
Right.
Yeah, and there's the big box pharmacies, from your Walgreens, Walmart, CVS, Sam's Clubs, all that other stuff. They're really trying to do things that to generally make things a little bit more convenient for everybody. But like you said, they're not going to get utilize their full thing to get everything done, because they just want to make. What am I trying to say? They're trying to make a lot of the lot of generic medications and the medications that everybody has, make those available for everybody so they can make their cash off them. It's a cash money business. So, you're going to do the stuff that makes the most money for that one.
Yeah, and then we can dive into a deep hole, the insurance companies that own them and this and that. We're not going to go there.
Don't go there.
That's our fear that, the big pharma is going to come for cannabis. It's kind of already happening because a lot of this is, big pharma behind it. Don't get me wrong. We had Dwayne on a few weeks ago, and he was actually against cannabis becoming Schedule 3 the way it did for the fact that they had to spend millions of dollars to get where they are now, and they're not even fully approved yet for their product. They have like the grow approved and the other stuff approved, but their actual product's not even approved yet, and they're still spending millions of dollars every year to get this process going. And they're like, you guys are just gonna make us spend millions of dollars, and then some podunk dispensary over in Oklahoma gets Schedule 3 protection that we're getting now when we paid millions of dollars, which I get, like I get it, and I think this whole process has been weird, and not normal.
Yeah, like I said, like we said, we're not going to get into the whole big pharma thing or how pharmaceuticals works or the big drug companies, how they do things. But let's just say the whole thing is just shady as.
Yeah, and speaking of shady, we're I don't know if you guys have heard, but everyone that they chose in the DEA, was the one that was choosing to speak at this are all anti-cannabis. And there's, reasons behind it, whatever, the whole government BS spill. And I'll give you guys that, and I'll even tell you who these people are and when they're going to be speaking. But from my understanding, the DEA is actually the proponent in this hearing, and everyone that's being able to talk is the opponent. So the DEA is burdened with, because they're both essentially burdened. The DEA is burdened with, defending the fact that, they either want to reclassify, reschedule, deschedule cannabis, whatever. That is their burden, to convince the rest of the government and in this hearing that that's the case. And it's the burden of the, opponents to say we shouldn't do anything with cannabis, needs to stay Schedule 1 forever, and they're injecting the marijuanas in their butts, and, it's just, it's bad, like whatever they're going to say.
You can do that? I know we mentioned we were going to talk about some of the reasons why it would not go through, because I can think of a ton of reasons why it makes more sense to deschedule rather than just go Schedule 3, or even just go Schedule 3. There's tons of reasons why you should do that. Mainly, a lot of it has to do with the majority of the people that want it. When you take a look at all the stats and the surveys and all that other stuff, and how many states already have the medical program or already gone recreational. The one thing that is in my mind that would stop that is just basically ignorance and stigma. Because they did that with hemp in when they passed the farm bill this last time, because there was the turtle, Mitch McConnell, going up there saying that we have to get rid of this because kids are getting a hold of it. It was the same arguments that Texas was using. Kids are getting it in the convenience stores and all this, and they're getting high off all this other stuff like that. And because one of my favorite things to do is watch the comedy show that is our legislative system, and all the hearings that they have, friggin' hilarious.
They say some of the funny shit.
They do say some of the funny stuff. But there's Rand Paul, who's represented from Tennessee, right? Going like, this is going to kill our industry, our hemp industry.
And he's a big proponent.
He's a big proponent of hemp.
Huge.
And it doesn't surprise me. But but he's going like, you guys don't know what you're talking about. You're just saying things that you've said for 50 years. 50, 60, 70 years at this point in time, because Mitch McConnell's been in there that long. He was 15 when he got elected.
Civil War.
I know I'm kind of making fun of Mitch, but he deserves it. Anyway, if anything that's going to derail the whole thing with all those meetings is just going to be that ignorance and that stigma. It's not going to be anything that's based on fact, numbers, or just even plain logic. And before I get into the people that are going to be at this hearing and everything, that be able to speak, because this is going to go on for at least almost 2 weeks. The government has a bigger incentive to keep adult use recreational cannabis in Schedule 1 for the time being because of 280E. They're making more money off of 280E than they're going to be making than moving all of cannabis to Schedule 3, and maybe those people will make it, and maybe they'll stick around to get those benefits from them and the pay all the time. If they allow the states to keep their adult use markets and keep it off of Schedule 3, they get their 280E, they separate cannabis and medical, and that satisfies all kinds of other people, and they get to shut down the Schedule 1 whenever the hell they want. Yeah.
So a lot of things are satisfied when you have this separation, and it kind of fills what they want. I think it's stupid. It just creates all this confusion that we're dealing with, especially when it comes to hemp, which is just like diet weed. That's really all it is. At the 0.3 percentage that they have it at, it's just regular cannabis pulled. Really.
I find it shocking, Chad, that you would insinuate that our government would do things just so they can keep our money.
Right.
I mean,
why?
I mean, they need all that money.
Yeah.
For things.
Mostly their boats and trips and stuff, right? Yeah.
Golf clubs are expensive, Chad. You have no idea. You have no idea.
And staying at resorts.
Sarcasm.
Yeah, learn it.
Yeah.
But with that being said, I'm going to now tell you guys, the people that are involved with this. Of course, on June 29th through the July 1st, that's actually going to be the DEA or the government. So they're going to be the ones testifying, and they're going to be the proponents of this, and they're going to be arguing for cannabis, hopefully. So we'll see. Now, July 2nd, that's going to be the National Drug and Alcohol Screening Association, also known as NDASA. That's going to be July 2nd. July 6th will be Smart Approaches to Marijuana, or SAM. We all know who they are. July 7th will be DUID, Victim Voices. If you guys are curious why there's a big gap in between the 2nd and the 6th, 4th of July, it falls in between those days, and it's a huge celebration for here in New Mexico, in America, or the rest of the country. America. We're reaching our 250 years celebration thing, so they're obviously not going to be there for that. July 8th is going to be Kenneth Finn. He's a medical doctor, and I'm guessing that he's going to be against cannabis. July 10th, Tennessee Bureau of Investigations, TBI, and most likely going to be against cannabis. Philip A. Drum, he's Farm D, that's what it says. Doesn't say any other title. Not too sure who he is or where he's from. More than likely, what it seems like to me, he's either going to be a doctor of some sort or a bigger cannabis person that's anti, cannabis going this way, like a big pharma kind of guy.
Yeah.
No clue. Don't quote me on that. Don't know who that guy is. Just guessing. And July 14th is going to be state of Nebraska, Idaho, Indiana, and Louisiana. So the states themselves are going to have representatives sent there to plead their case. I'm guessing from the names of the states here, it's going to be anti-cannabis.
I was going to say, do they even have recreational cannabis or medical cannabis?
Louisiana has medical.
Okay.
And I think that's it.
That's it. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're going to get the states that don't have any cannabis, for the most part, or very limited experience in cannabis industry, to go ahead and testify like that.
Yeah.
Why isn't quite honestly, why isn't, not that I would want, California and Colorado to go up there, but why isn't a California or Colorado or New Mexico speaking on the recreational side of cannabis, or for cannabis in general?
That's a good question, and I have the answer here. It was the secretary.
Did I set you up for something?
You did set me up for something. You gave a good volleyball player here. So the government did clarify and tell us why, and the reason is that they felt that the people that, like Normal was one of them, the hugest advocates in the nation when it comes to cannabis. They were told no too, and they tried to get in on the hearing, but they were told no because they weren't affected as much negatively as the people that they selected here, and it was the DEA who selected these people. Now, hear me out. Here's my thought process, and this actually comes from a buddy's theory that he told it to me, and it seemed interesting, and I wanted to share it with you guys. Since the government is a proponent on this, it is now their burden to prove their fact and findings why cannabis should be whatever they're going to come up with. And I think the reason why they brought, or the theory is the reason why they brought the anti-cannabis people is because, okay, the government's saying, oh, well, we agree with you guys, the pro-cannabis people, we don't need you there. We're going to hear from the opponents of cannabis because it's only fair to hear their side too. That could be the reason why, but since the DEA was the one who selected them, I'm not too sure. To me, it felt more anti-cannabis than not, because their exact statement on it was like, okay, that makes sense. They weren't the ones burdened, so they didn't choose, all the pro-cannabis people, which to me also doesn't make sense, because they are burdened, because if this goes the other way, then, a bunch of people get screwed over and patients have to wait longer, et cetera, all this stuff, or, whatever. If they keep it to Schedule 1, and to be honest, I hope they deschedule it. Like if they deschedule Schedule 1 cannabis, that makes more sense than anything else, because you have a medical cannabis program and then you have a illegal one with all these states, and you're just going to keep the Schedule 3 thing. And then if you make everything Schedule 3, then you throw a wrench in everybody's state market, and you pretty much screw everyone over because they have to be able to comply. And I just saw that Justin said 3 months. I appreciate you, brother. He's been subscribing with us for 3 months on Twitch.
Well, you know, once again, and this is one of those things where you really need to get the t-shirts, Chad.
Yeah, I really do.
T-shirts, because I am going to say it, but I'm going to say it in a second, because you're saying that the government, of course, being the proponent for the rescheduling or the descheduling, and that the DEA, and they want to bring up all the people that would try and convince them not to do it.
Yeah.
But we all know that not everybody in the government is ready for the reschedule, let alone descheduling the whole thing. So I don't think that trying to convince them not to do it is going to be all that hard. And second, the DEA is also part of the government. So having the government pick and choose who's going to argument against itself, and they chose all the people that would be against cannabis without at least bringing in, you know, I don't care if they have everybody here there, if they at least brought in a few other people to go ahead and give the positive side for that, to reinforce the government's proposed type of, you know, we want this whole thing to go past, then that at least would make more sense, that you're going to at least hear from two sides. Because generally speaking, if the public tunes in to the exciting hearings that are always just so much fun, I know I have a problem because I like to watch them, but they're just going to hear that one side. This is, we should, and they're going to think all these people are against it, all this negativity against cannabis in general. So it's just like, somehow I don't think they're helping anybody out by going and showing that one side on anything.
No.
But once again, this is the government going up against the government to try and convince the government that they should do something or shouldn't do something. And it's all the government people that are getting it done. So therefore, you ready? Let the fuckery begin.
I was waiting for it.
It's all going to go down that way. Because even if it's just generally speaking, to have some advocates that will point out that how many 47 out of the 50 states have a medical program?
I think it's over.
Or is it more like 46, 45?
I think it's in the high 30s, low 40s.
Like 30, I could have swore it was in the 40s when I checked last time. To have a medical program.
Yeah.
I think a very slim majority or in the majority already have recreational programs. Okay, so we're talking about a lot of people that have that. We talk about the vote that Texas had about should we have cannabis, and they said yes. There was one in Florida not too long ago where they said, you know, should we have the cannabis in here? And that one actually went up for a vote, but a lot of people was defeated because of the stigma and all the things that people are worried about here. The one thing that blows my mind about all of this stuff, and just the fact of the government doing this, is that it's I don't say it's an unwritten rule, or it's just something that everybody knows that nobody wants to admit. But everybody knows somebody who uses cannabis in some way. And they've been doing it for years, and it hasn't done anything. There hasn't been a negative effect on anything. When we went recreational, once again, what has actually changed as far as crime laws or any of the other stuff like that? Have we had an increase in DUIs? Have we had an increase in crimes or anything that are doing that? And I guess you could say yes, because there's been a lot of crimes against the cannabis industry as far as that goes locally. But where is that increase that has come? Where are the differences that have made?
Yeah.
We've been recreational for 4 years now?
Yeah, four years. Yeah.
So what are the stats that make a difference on that? I mean, if it's something that all the states like that, how long has Colorado been? Have they had a major difference in the way things are going?
They definitely saw a decrease in crime. The DUI thing is weird and spotty for the fact that they haven't figured out the best way to tell when someone's high. They're basing it off of nanograms in your blood, but that varies per person, and also
because everybody treats it different.
Yeah, everyone has a different
Walk up to
talk.
the car with a bag of Doritos, see if they start looking and acting.
Right.
I'm
Yeah.
just saying. No,
They have the jokes like that. I've seen like the memes and
Have you
stuff.
seen the
Yeah,
memes like that?
where
Yeah.
they show them the bag, like, oh man, that looks good. It's like, oh, you're
dude.
stoned. Like that's more accurate than the
It's
blood
like,
test, to be honest.
Have you been drinking? Nah. Have you been smoking? Oh, no. Want to go get a pizza? Oh, hell yeah. That's one of those things. But I want to see those. I want to see the numbers, because if you're not going to believe what people are saying, bring the numbers to them. Bring the proof right there. What are the negative effects of some of the recreational programs that are out there? Has anybody seen anything? That the only negative effect that I've noticed is that every once in a while I'll stop at a corner somewhere and go like, damn, somebody's smoking outside.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
You know, and one thing I wanted to mention before I forget too is the federal government. They aren't clear of what their stance is yet on cannabis yet on this topic. So that's what makes it even more weird. On top of that, it's like, so you're not sure what you want to do. They can make it Schedule 2, they can make it Schedule 5, they can deschedule it. They don't have a concrete idea of what they're going to do yet. So keep that in mind, everybody. They don't know what their stance is yet on this, but yet they invited a bunch of anti-cannabis people to speak.
Even if you did it straight from the medical point of view and the medical side right there, you should have somebody on the medical side to go ahead and say, this is what happens. This is what the effects are. This is what we use it for. This is something that helps out our vets. This is something that helps out our elderly. This is something that helps out people with chronic pain, or there's certain things like that. Bring it from that medical side, because majority of the states have the medical program for a reason, and because they see that there's a benefit for that. Keep it in mind, Schedule 1 says that these drugs do not have any medical benefit whatsoever, which obviously in itself is false, because cannabis does have some medical benefits, none of which I'm claiming or saying are true, but there's a lot of people that feel better when with certain issues that are on that. You know, I mean, just with talking with our guests from the last couple of weeks, you know, the medical benefits and all that stuff.
Shout out to Shay.
Shay. Trying to talk to all the animals, just to let you know. But so having somebody, at least not even on the recreational side, not even on somebody just wants to get high to relax, or to use cannabis to make the day a little bit better than what it is already, or something like that. But on the medical side, have those medical people to come in and say, hey, look, this is the benefits. This is what we can do with this. And we could probably do a whole lot more for a lot more people when we get a chance to take a closer look at everything.
Yeah, definitely. You know, and this hearing doesn't seem like that's going to happen, unfortunately. I could be wrong, and I hope I'm wrong. And, you know, I hope they say, you know what, screw all this shit. We're going to, you know, deschedule it, and it's going to be decriminalized, and, you know, everyone's happy. But then again, you know, you have to deal with ATF and all that shit. So, you know, we'll be dealing with some kind of federal entity in the future, everybody. I want to let you guys know that. We're not going to get away from any of them. We may get away from the DA a little bit, but then we're going to have to deal with the ATF, and we're still going to have to deal with the FDA, and we're still going to have to deal with all the other alphabet people that, you know,
quite honestly, if cannabis should be an FDA thing, I don't see why it should be an ATF thing. Just ask any 2A advocate how much the ATF is really loved and enjoyed.
Oh yeah, I mean, even when I was a bartender, you know, like no one wanted to get messed with the ATF. If you got fucked with by the ATF, you did something really bad. Like, you know, because the state alcohol commission will come down first. Oh yeah, yeah, before the ATF will. So if you have the ATF knocking at your bar, holy shit, what'd you do? So yeah, I hope something good comes from this. You know, I just wanted you guys to understand that state medical cannabis and FDA approved cannabis is already Schedule 3. This hearing is just for the rest of cannabis to see what they want to do with it. This doesn't mean that the rest of cannabis will become Schedule 3. DEA isn't even sure what their stance is on this matter. So it's going to take probably, you know, on the 29th when we get the first hearing to kind of figure out what direction they're actually leaning to. Now, they can make a decision after the first hearing, so they don't have to listen to the rest of the people. Which I think they will, but they can say, okay, after this first hearing, we're actually just gonna, you know, make it Schedule 3, or, you know, we're gonna deschedule it, or, you know, keep it Schedule 1. They can make that decision, and then pretty much all of this is moot.
Do you know exactly which committee or which department is having the hearings? What do they have it under?
Good question. I was looking at it today and I can't remember it off the freaking top of my head. I'll make sure to post that in my post when it comes to.
Just asking because you can actually search.
Oh, that was one thing I want to mention. The hearings, they're not going to be public. They're going to be public in person, and you have to get there early. Yeah, they're not going to stream it. I meant to mention that earlier. They're not going to stream it. You're not going to have audio or anything. Now, they are, I think, Normal also asked them and like pleaded to them to make it available to the public because I think that's ridiculous. You know, the public.
Actually, most of the hearings, unless they've got to do with secrets, unless they have to do with like some of the security stuff, most of them are broadcast.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm shocked, actually, completely surprised that these ones wouldn't be, because that's a big major issue that that they have on there, and that they would have those televised, especially, once again, if you have all the anti-cannabis people that are going to be testifying, and to give that look to the general public on why it's so evil and they shouldn't do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really shocking that they wouldn't have those broadcast or streamed somewhere.
Yeah, me too. You know, and I was reading the documentation, and they were very clear on how you can attend this. You can either attend it in person, but they're not going to stream it. There's not going to be. You're not even going to be allowed to have your phone out during the hearing. There's not going to be recording devices or anything allowed in this hearing. I don't know why. They didn't really give a real specific reason. The only thing I can think of is just government fuckery.
Did some of the senators and congressmen, whoever holding the meeting, did they get to have their phones in there?
Probably. Yeah.
You know, have pictures, leaks, people getting advice.
And the government does record these hearings themselves. It's just they don't release them to the public. And so there's going to be a recording device there. It's just the government recording it. So what do we do, right? You know,
I mean, yeah. Once again, that blows my mind, because they even have Supreme Court oral arguments that will be streamed live.
Yeah, I listened to the one for cannabis and guns. You know, I was listening to the audio on it, and that's how I heard everything. And this one right here, I hope they do oblige and change that. You know, we have a few days before the hearing, and they can change it whenever they want. But I think that makes it even more shady and less transparent for this whole process, is the fact that we can't sit there and listen to what they're exactly saying. We're going to have to trust the media, which we know we can trust them very well.
I trust the media about as much as I trust government, and I work in radio. And I do the news every morning. So.
Yeah, we were part of the media.
That's a nice one, Chad. You're coming up with all the good stuff today.
I know, right? Yeah, all the great shit. So, it's unfortunate, and you know that we won't be able to hear what's being said and everything. But you know, this hearing is at least happening for the time being right now, at the time of recording, because all of this could change with the drop of a hat, and they could decide not to have this hearing or whatever. So I hope something good comes from it. You know me, I'm hoping for decriminalization. Will Schedule 3 for all of cannabis be a step in the right direction? I don't think so. And to be honest, I think we shoot ourselves in the foot a lot when we sit here and say this is good because it's a step in the right direction, when sometimes it's a step to the side versus a step forward. And that step to the side could lead to a step back as well. So, we have to be careful when we're saying when something is a step in the right direction, because for all we know, it may not be a step in the right direction. It may just sound like a step in the right direction, like a booby trap. Like you don't want to step on a booby trap thinking it's the right path.
Nah, I've done that before.
Yeah, right. So what's your final thoughts?
No, I was just taking a look right there, and right now they've got a couple of people that are filing to go ahead and force the judge to have those hearings live streamed. So hopefully they'll be able to get that done.
Yeah.
But like you're correct, what seems like would be a step in the right direction is sometimes that like 2 steps forward, 1 step back type of thing.
And sometimes it's steps to the side, left and right.
Dodge.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So. And with the government, the fuckery is there. So, it's kind of hard to see. But the only thing we can do is just go forward and hope for the best. At least we know for sure that the medical side of it is Schedule 3.
Yeah, that is for sure. And even in the documentation I was reading.
Medical cards.
Yeah, get your medical card.
Get your medical card. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Ask all the people with the medical cards, are you having to worry about it?
No.
So, just saying. And they've got a ton of reasons you can get your card these days. And then on top of that, with the Humana hearing, you can get your medical card, you can get some rest, you can get some relief, and then shoot your 9mm at the range.
Yeah.
So sober.
That is the key. Sober.
The only thing I'm going to be hopped up on is slushies because it's hot outside. That would be one of those things that you can go ahead and get done, and just move forward on that, and kind of see where the cookie crumbles and where the cards fall, and I don't know how many other things you can say about fate, and let it go, and just hope that the fuckery doesn't get too much to the point where you're like, hey, but like I said, the only thing that I can see derailing it would be the stigma, all the guests and everything that you have on that, which I'm sure that'll bring up, and the fact that ignorance and just to see who's that part of the government that's been there forever that just has that same point of view that they've had since the time that they were told that the evil plant is going to come out and get you in the dark or something like that.
I know, and these are people that rode Littlefoot to school, like in a Land Before Time kind of situation.
Yeah.
These are dinosaur age people that have been in the government, and they need to retire.
How dare you?
Term limits, damn it.
Petrie is doing a fine job as
Governor Littlefoot. Yeah, for my millennials and older out there, some of the younger people probably
nobody's going to get that joke.
You're right.
I brought it up. Nobody's going to get it, but yeah.
So, that's pretty much all I have, for this, and it's unfortunate because this mess that's been created feels like it was created on purpose, and all this confusion and everything only for a certain group of people to really benefit from this, and
there's a whole theory of unintended consequences, and kind of going Schedule 3 seems like a good idea. Going for the medical, at least having that separation, like you said, it's that like one step forward, 2 steps back for everything else with the hemp and all the stuff that could be going at now I can't remember anything dances that are called, I don't know, Macarena or whatever.
That's a good one.
But you have the theory of unintended consequences that this seems like a good thing, but what are the other consequences that come out of it? And it's this whole thing. It's the whole thing in trusting the government to realize what could happen or what could happen. Even even speaking about the hemp industry, which we're going to go into, I know, and the financial burden that will have for everybody that gets caught up with that, just in general. So.
Well, let's jump into it. So let's talk about the hemp stuff, going on in the federal government wise and with Texas real quick before we end the show. So with this hearing being done right now, there's also some congressional stuff going on. Now, last year, Congress passed, a bill that essentially banned hemp. We pretty much have a ban on seeds as well.
Yeah.
The only thing that's allowed, it's going to go off of the lineage of the parents, versus what's on the seed or in the seed. Like the weirdest shit ever. Which to be honest,
are they just doing clones then, or what?
Yeah. So essentially, the clones and stuff like that is pretty much left alone. And I think they didn't realize that when they wrote it. But now a lot of this is being flipped around. So the White House back in November, they wanted to crack down on the intoxicating hemp. It's not intoxicating. It's not a toxin. But that's what they're calling it, the intoxicating hemp. So the White House was in on it too. The Congress wanted it. And now we saw a report within the last day or two that the White House is reversing that. And now they want to save hemp, and they want to push Congress to change it and to do something to help them. I've been seeing a lot of articles too about them wanting to just save the drinks, the cannabis drinks, so that way, Coors and all those big companies can, really get in and benefit. So we'll see what happens there. But from my understanding is the White House now is wanting to help the hemp industry. And then on top of it, some of the same people that voted to ban hemp the way they did are now introducing bills in Congress to try to save it. So the same people that put us here are now trying to fix the problem they created. That was not a problem to start out with, let's be honest. It was just a issue of, okay, we have this plant that we gave an arbitrary number of a 0.3% THC. Why don't we just legalize the whole damn thing and put everything back together versus what we've done where we have like 10 million different industries for the same plant.
Once again, that would make sense, and we are talking about the government right now. This just goes to the whole thing because the whole hemp ban came apart as part of the Farm Bill.
Yes.
And that
or hemp legalization.
Hemp legalization. part of the Farm Bill, the whole thing where they're going to take away basically what they're dealing with now happened in the Farm Bill. And that, to me, sometimes I hate when I pay too much attention to the government. It just tells me that a lot of people were voting for the Farm Bill because it's the Farm Bill. We want to help our farmers. They don't know what's in it. They don't know what's going on. Then all of a sudden, and then there were people like Rand Paul. There were a couple other people that were speaking up against, like, this is going to kill our hemp industry in general. And then the turtle comes up and he says, no, this is to keep it away from the kids. And then a lot of people just didn't know what they were voting for. All of a sudden, it's in there. It's coming down. I think all of that is actually going to go down in October, November, right? Yeah. For the hemp stuff.
Yeah. So the hemp ban, essentially the hemp ban that they've created is going to happen in November.
Yeah. So that would be November. So now all of a sudden they're coming down to the wire, going like, oh, wait a minute, we kind of messed up. We're going to have to fix it. And now you're getting all these people that are coming in trying to fix it. And I'm sure Rand Paul and a few of the other senators that have a large hemp industry in their states are coming in, going like, hey, we got to do something about this.
Yeah.
They're just trying to, but once again, that's that whole theory of unintended consequences. You pass the Farm Bill to help the farmers, and all of a sudden you realize that the hemp farmers are getting screwed, and they're trying to help them out.
Yeah.
So the idea that they would reverse their idea about that is not surprising to me at all.
Yeah.
But once again, I'm telling you, it's a monetary opportunity, Chad. Somebody's going to seal it for you.
Oh, 100%.
You must have those shirts made.
Oh, yeah, you're right. I got to get on that soon, to be honest. Because that fuckery is beginning.
Yeah, and just a little announcement. Let the fuckery begin.
like a flag for a race.
Yeah, that's it. Because that's what it's going to come down to. And once again, people are going to try and get this whole thing passed. There'll be other unintended consequences. And it's just like you said, it would be real easy just to make it the plant. We're talking about the same plant. Mm-hmm. We're talking about baby cannabis. Talking about, kind of growing up cannabis. We're talking about the cannabis that realizes that it's all its cousins and the compounds and the whole thing like that. It's the same fucking plant.
Yeah.
Deal with it and figure out what you can do to go ahead and help some people out.
Yeah, because, we're, freaking kicking the dead horse here until it's powder with, the way things are going. And the way they've gone about it.
Yeah.
And it's not working. All they've done is created loophole after trying to close the loophole. They don't realize that when they close one, they open another. So here's what's going to happen with the seed thing. And I can see this happening already. And I haven't seen it yet, but I can see it happening. A lot of the companies, they don't want to break the law. They want to follow the law, right?
Yeah.
So if the parent's lineage is at 0.3%, they're just going to have paperwork that said, yes, the parent was 0.3%. But what they're not going to tell you is that they tested that plant very, very early when it was still at 0.3%, because that's essentially how they grow hemp. Yes, it is naturally a lower THC plant, but if you let it go a little longer, or if it's a little warmer, then it will become hot hemp. And that's essentially what we're going to see with the seed thing, is hot hemp 2.0 with the seeds. All they're going to do is say, yeah, that did come from a plant that was 0.3%, but they're not going to tell you that it was 0.3% in week 4 flower. They're just going to say, this testing right here says it was 0.3%. That means the seed's going to be 0.3%. So if you grow anything higher than that, that's on you. And I can see that becoming the next loophole when it comes to the seeds.
Yeah.
And it's an easy one. It's an easy one to go by. And to be honest, we shouldn't have to do that in the first place. Why even make people go that route? It's so stupid. And the fact that they included seeds the way that they did, instead of going off of what's on the plant or in the seed, on the seed or in the seed, they're going off the lineage of the parents. And I don't even know if it's the mom or the father or which parent, because even then you can say, well, if you're going off the father, if you're going off parent or parents, I can say, well, the father was under 0.3%. You didn't ask what the mother was, or you didn't require me, to tell you what the mother was, but the father definitely under 0.3% THC.
Yeah, the father could be 0.3% and the mother could be Canadian. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. And most male plants are very low in the THC as well to start with, because they're not the producers like the females, and so that's why you have the male and the female cannabis plant, so that way they can, because the female plant, she has the trichomes to collect the pollen, and the reason why she has so much THC or the trichomes on her is because she's sexually frustrated when you take the male away, and so the male is naturally just going to have less THC because that's not what he's trying to produce. He's trying to send it to her. So we're going to see a lot of gray area fuckery when it comes to this one, and it's going to get really, really stupid. And like,
why I'm laughing.
Oh, you're laughing. Yeah, you're laughing because like, oh my God.
Also, there's a lot of low T jokes I could make about that. So, I'm learning a lot more about cannabis than I needed to know about low T.
Yeah. We're getting to the
males in the cannabis world. I guess that's just a natural thing that happens. So,
happens through time. It's the plant gets older.
and the females. I mean, they got it all.
Yeah, exactly. I don't like males in my garden. That's the reason why is I want them to be sexually frustrated, and that's how we grow cannabis. But the seed thing, going after the seed, you're not gonna. Yeah, it's gonna cause some stupid shit. And I just in my head, I'm just like, this is gonna.
Sorry, I distracted you a little bit. But
no, you're good. So that's pretty much what I had for on that side of the federal government update. It's pretty much the same people that created this mess are now scrambling to try to fix it because the voters are pissed.
Yeah.
The voters are very fucking angry that this happened, and they realize that, and they work for votes, and if they don't do the right thing, they're going to get voted out. And guess what? Election time is only a few months away.
It's already happening in a lot of the primaries in general and stuff like that. Texas itself has
been a huge shocker.
There's been a lot of changes in Texas about people getting voted out, people losing their seats, the whole thing like that. So that whole idea that you have no control over anything as far as politics go, no, you do. You can, and it'll affect there because if anything, politicians are very consistent is they will do anything to make sure that their pockets are full. And if things will change that, then they'll change their mind on just about anything, and which is why, big weed, let's come together.
But unfortunately, big weed's one of the ones that kind of fights against us all the time, and that's the unfortunate part.
Okay, small weed, come on.
Yeah, exactly. Mom and pops, you guys got to fight. If you want to stick around and you want to be here, you got to fight for it. It's not going to just be me, one advocate, or a group of small advocates, that can do this all the time. It takes all of us. And just like voting, we're seeing now, these huge changes and these huge upsets.
Yeah.
And some of these are massive. Like, even I'm shocked on some of the people that have been losing.
I've been shocked at some of the people who have been winning.
Yeah, that too.
Probably the same people. And
It's unfortunate. But now, speaking of the state thing, let's move over to Texas now.
Okay.
So Texas, they're dealing with something similar. They had that huge, hemp industry, the TSCA stuff, and they pretty much defeated their legislature 3 times, and then their governor came down and said, I want some kind of regulation, and so the people that were in charge of that, instead of giving them actual regulation, just decided to crack down on it more and pretty much ban hemp through rules and regulation versus giving them actual regulation, which is unfortunate. They raised the amount that you pay for the licensing there significantly, making it almost unaffordable for most small operators. They changed the percentage of how much you can have. They're going after the smokables. I don't think you can have any smokable products in there in Texas anymore, and a bunch of other stuff too. So instead of fixing the issue, they made it even worse. Instead of listening to the governor, they just said, "Oh, you want regulation? Okay." And because they were under the impression that it was going to be regulated more like tobacco, through that, but they instead just created something totally different, like they always do with cannabis, but for the wrong way and the wrong reasons. Like, I agree that we do need to regulate cannabis differently, but the way that they're doing it is bad. It's the bad way that you regulate cannabis, and it's a ban, essentially. So for them, they've been going back and forth through court. Like one day I'll see on there, yay, we won in court, so now we can have our smokables again. 2 days later, oh, actually the judge came back and we can't. Oh, they filed a motion for something. So now, and it's an emotional roller coaster ride. Those poor fucking people over there in Texas.
Yeah, because I know that like you said, the government did save it last time and said, hey, we do want some rules. We want it regulated, which is what people in the industry wanted. You want the rules, you want the regulation right there. But when you get somebody who's making up the rules that just doesn't want something done, they can make the rules so it makes it so much harder. Rules, regulations, fees, different things that they have to do that they can just basically run everybody out if they want to. So obviously whoever is in charge of all of that, making up these new rules, is someone that didn't listen to anybody that said, by the way, we need to regulate this. not regulated out of existence.
And what doesn't help is, old Lieutenant Dan over there, Dan Patrick, he is still beating that anti-cannabis drum. And I'm sure that he was behind some of the Department of State of Health Services. That's the one who created the rules. And alcohol. It's been confirmed in Texas that big alcohol was huge in lobbying and, trying to get rid of the cannabis and hemp stuff over in Texas. And Lieutenant Dan, that was some of the people that, paid him and,
Which is something that blows my mind that I don't understand, because alcohol, the big alcohol industry has a history of finding these things that works and just co-opting them and taking them over. Mm-hmm. You look at a lot of the craft beer stuff and you see that little label on the bottom that has all the big names on it because they bought up all the craft beer stuff. They bought up all the smaller places that do that, which is something that they've always done. So if there's an industry that's going to start making money, why aren't they just running with it and going with it? Because this is something that at this point in time, or at one point in time, was easier to get done than it would be for the beer stuff and the alcohol stuff. My
thing is the alcohol, and some alcohol companies have come around, and don't get me wrong, like some are like, yeah, why fight them? We're just going to join them. We'll make a better drink than anyone else anyway, which I probably agree. They probably would be able to make a better drink than someone just with a regular mom and pop kind of place.
Yeah, you'd have the big label stuff going. You can use it if you want to, Budweiser, but you could have Bud's Light. I don't know. I mean, it would be great.
Yeah, low THC beer.
Low TB. Yeah. Get your low T beer here.
Low T beer.
It is just there's marketing possibilities. There's different things that they can do. I mean, like I said, I don't understand sometimes why the industry works against itself. And that happens with cannabis too.
Yeah.
The industry in itself will work against itself to get things done.
And a lot of people are afraid of the pie being small. They want the whole pie to themselves. And that's what I've noticed too, especially because we've only had craft brew since the 70s or 80s, when they finally legalized it. That pie is so huge, they didn't need to buy up everybody. That pie is so big that you don't have to go after the craft drinkers because they're the minority group anyway, of the beer consumer world as is. They didn't start getting more popular until the bigger companies started buying them up and made them more available around the nation. There's a reason why I can find Kona here in Las Cruces and not just in Hawaii, and I
mean, it's okay.
Yeah, it was one of my favorites when I did drink. Big Wave was one of them. But yeah, Texas is another one, huge alcohol lobby. And, they donate a lot to a lot of politicians in Texas, including Lieutenant Dan. And so Lieutenant Dan, he's been beating that anti-cannabis drum. And he's saying, even next year, because, Texas, they don't do the legislative session every year like here in New Mexico. It's every other year. So next year when they meet for the legislative session, which is over 6 months long almost, he's probably going to try to introduce some kind of legislation. But I don't know how well that's going to work for the simple fact that many of the anti-cannabis politicians that were anti-cannabis for these bills have now woken up and realized my constituents don't want that. My constituents want legal cannabis and regulated cannabis. And if I don't, I'm out of a job.
Yeah.
Lieutenant Dan doesn't care. He even says, if I get voted out and I lose because of this, I don't care. Whatever. Blah, blah, blah. His whole thing.
Yeah. It's a novel thing to think, politicians, please pay attention, that you should listen to your constituents and you should represent the people that elected you, because that's essentially what is your job anyway, is to go ahead and do that. And it'll be interesting to have the next session, because like we said, in Texas, there's a lot of people that didn't win their primaries, and you're going to have new people that are going to be representing this different areas in Texas for their Senate and their Congress as well. So that'll be pretty interesting to see how that goes when they try and do that next year.
Yeah, and Texas is pretty much just trying to hold on for as long as they can, because if something doesn't happen on the federal level, the hemp ban is going to go in effect nationwide anyway.
Which makes you think, well, if federally, you said it before that Texas likes to follow what the federal does, but if they do end up doing something that makes it more moving forward, more progressive towards cannabis, then Texas has to follow suit.
If the federal government deschedules it, I see Texas full on legalizing it, because there's no reason or purpose for them to keep the prohibition anymore. Because if the federal government legalizes it, then they're just going to be losing out on even more money than they already are right now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost a drop in the bucket to Texas's budget on what they lose to New Mexico, because they make so much money elsewhere in other industries, but they still are losing, about $500 million every year to us, in sales and everything, because about half of our sales come from Texas.
Yeah.
And a good other chunk comes from Mexico.
Yeah.
Down in Sunland Park, a huge number of people come from Mexico to buy too.
And that just blows my mind, because that's just like you said, that's El Paso, El Paso Juarez, right?
Yeah.
Right there. That's where that money's come from. But what happens to Texas when they make it? If they do legalize it, and then suddenly you've got Dallas, Fort Worth, Houston, Austin will probably make up $2 billion.
Yeah, San Antonio.
You get all of that stuff going in there, and how much is that state going to be making as far as?
A lot. And to be honest, New Mexico, and I've told you guys this many times, the areas that border Texas, they're on a ticking clock as is. We don't know the end of that clock, but you guys are on a ticking clock. And if you don't realize that, you're already lost.
Yeah.
If you're near the Texas border and you're an operator, you're going to have to figure out a few things. One, how to shift. Two, either join that market, or three, get out of the industry while you have money. Because once Texas goes, those areas are going to dry up very, very quickly once they get established. Now,
or establish a second store across the street.
Exactly. Over in Texas, whatever it is. That's why I said join their industry as well.
Exactly.
So you can, double dip. You're in the New Mexico and now you're in the Texas industry, and a lot of people are going to do that. And to be honest, that's a smart thing to do. If you're close enough to Texas, I would say do it. They did it to us. Everybody from every other state that came here from out of state, they already did that to us. And now it's our turn to do it. And I know we hated it. And those of you that hated it become hypocrites. But at the same time, it's all for the golden dollar. And I can't be too mad at you for it.
Yeah.
As long as you recognize that, what you were saying is, essentially the same thing that you're doing now, then, by all means. But eventually there are going to be New Mexicans who go to Texas to join their industry, and some already kind of have, on the hemp side. But once they do legalize it, or the federal government changes or something, that's going to happen.
Yeah.
And the Sunland Park areas, Hobbs, Carlsbad, they're kind of going to dry up, essentially, and not going to be the markets that they once were. Now you can help yourself now by being different, like Astrobuds. They have something different, and they're getting the clientele base now, and they're going to be fine for the time being. They have the casino right there. They have the theme park right there. So there's always going to be people within that area of Sunland Park, but it's not going to be as many as it is now from outside of the area, because you have people not just from El Paso and Juarez showing up, but people from other places in Mexico and Texas showing up, that are coming to these places. And don't get me wrong, I don't know how deep into Mexico these people are coming. I'm assuming, most come from like Chihuahua or Juarez, or the state of Chihuahua in general. But, I do know that they are coming from there. Now for Texas, you have those people coming from Houston, from San Antonio, from Dallas, making those long trips, or even like Amarillo and stuff like that. And for the most part, they're staying, like in Eunice, New Mexico, but some do go to Sunland Park, to experience it all.
Amarillo needs weed.
Yeah, right.
They need it badly. Feed it to the cows. No, I mean, once it goes, if it goes descheduled and it's like nationwide, I mean, that is just going to be an amazing thing, because like you said, there's some reciprocity rules between states that kind of go into effect.
Yeah, we have a trigger law here in New Mexico.
Law, yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
For interstate commerce.
For interstate commerce, because once again, that Sunland Park might lose a lot of what it's getting from Texas, because they don't have to drive all the way up to Sunland Park. But Sunland Park's a weird place, because literally Texas is across the street in some places, and some people just might stick with it with what they know, what they have.
Yeah, because you have a New Mexico Sunland Park, then you have a Texas Sunland Park.
Yeah, exactly.
It's split between the two states.
So that'll be interesting to see what that happens. But with the interstate commerce thing, then that means hey, Texas, you need some stuff to go ahead and make sure that your brand new dispensaries are stocked up with all that. You know what? We got a few places that can help you out. We got a few people that can help you out.
Yeah.
That's one thing that the growers will definitely be able to take advantage of, I think, And once again, I've said before, if that were to happen, then guess what? The entire country gets to discover New Mexico products.
Exactly, and other state stuff too. So I mean, there's the good and bad and everything, I guess.
I don't know. I'm trying to be positive about things.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just being honest. But yeah, we'll see what happens in Texas. Poor things. They're dealing, with this emotional roller coaster. The one day it's okay for smokables, the next day it's not, and then they have lawsuits, and they do have a lawsuit right now for this to kind of say that the rules that were put in place were going too far, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that hearing is going to be the end of next month. Okay. And so it's cutting even closer to the November date, and I have no clue what's going to happen congressionally. Yeah. The White House is backing it, which gives it more of a push, but at the same time, the White House is one of the people that created this mess in the first place, and on top of the congressional members that introduced those bills.
And once again, that's that theory of unintended consequences. When people do things and they make the rules that they have in there, and then things kind of come around on them. But it's very interesting because you do have, I'm sure other states are dealing with it as well. But the fact that it's going to come down to this whole congressional thing, and it's happening pretty quick here with these hearings and everything else. And before you know it, you know what today is, right?
Not like a holiday wise.
No, holiday, just the date.
Oh, it's 25th.
Yeah, 25th of June.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what that means?
4 days.
6 months.
Oh shit, you're right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Chad just realized he has to do Christmas shopping right now.
I know, I'm like, oh shit.
We're 6 months away from Christmas Day. We are basically halfway through the year already, and this year it's already gone by quick.
Yeah,
we're talking just a few weeks and about a month or so, and some of this stuff is going to be going down. And then all of a sudden it's November, and then where are we going to stand at that point in time?
Yeah,
it's kind of interesting. So all this tells me is that if you want to have things go your way and you want to be a positive advocate, then get a hold of your representatives in either way. Let them know. You can contact them. You can call them. You can send them the emails. The more people that they hear about, the more that's going to get their attention, going like, hey, maybe I should kind of do what these guys want me to do.
Because they already changed minds in Texas on some of the representatives. Mm-hmm. Lieutenant Dan can say whatever he wants, does whatever he wants. If he loses the support of his party, he's done on that topic and that one, and he's going to have to concede.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't sign the bills. That's the governor who signs the bills. He does have a lot of
new governor too.
Yeah, and who knows? He might get voted out.
Yeah, because their governor is term limited too, isn't it?
No, there's no term limits in Texas. There's no term limits. Yeah, unfortunately, I think everybody needs term limits. It's just kind of ridiculous that someone can just continue on like a like a legacy thing. But anyway,
once again, we're looking at you, Mr. Turtle.
Term limits for everybody, damn it.
Term limits for Mitch McConnell and
all right, but that's all I have for this week in update. Sorry guys, it went a little longer, over than an hour. I was actually wanting to make this 30-40 minutes.
It's my fault.
No big deal. There's still a lot of information in here to share, and we had to get it out there for you guys. So I appreciate it. I'll be back next week for another episode of Ask Chad Grassy Logic. I'll have a guest next week, so it won't be just me.
So you don't get to look at this Harlan Sanders type thing going
Hey, they might like your hair, dude.
I don't know.
But anyway, I'll see you guys next week. Make sure you like, subscribe, follow, whatever you got to do to stay in the know. All right, guys, shoots.
Grassy.